Welcome to the Translators podcast. On this week's episode, we have stand-up comedian Gina Brillon.
And we have our good friend, the hilarious Anthony Palmini, hanging out with us via Zoom, who will ask us, a fun little trivia question about stand-up.
Now, Anthony, you briefly did stand-up. Is that correct?
Yes, but it was very brief, very brief.
So how would you describe your stand-up style?
Kind of unconventional because I sat down the whole time, so...
Okay, now I get why it was so brief.
Oh, okay.
Okay, well, why don't we get to today's trivia question, all right? Today's trivia question is, who is the first Latina comedian to create, produce, write, and star in her own primetime comedy?
Oh, I know this one, but Jaime, you can go first.
Oh, no. I insist you go first.
No, it's okay. I want to be extra kind. You can go first.
Now, this is coming from the heart. I want you to go first, man.
Okay. I'll give you the answer. The answer is Cristela Alonso, all right? With her self-titled sitcom, Cristela.
I knew that. Damn it.
Okay, shout out to Cristela for making history. And now, let's start the show. Translators. Our guest, Gina Brillon, recently had a very memorable run on America's Got Talent. So on this edition of Translator Log, we're gonna do a quick history of Latino TV comedies.
That was pretty good. We'll start in the 1950s when the Cubano Desi Arnaz played Ricky Ricardo in the popular television show, you might have heard of this, of I Love Lucy on CBS.
All right, I'm gonna spill some I Love Lucy tea real quick. Okay. Ricky was allegedly loving Lucy when the cameras were off too, if you know what I mean. But you didn't hear that from me.
Everyone knows that. Arnaz was both the real life and stage husband of Lucy, played by Lucille Ball.
Damn, I thought I had an exclusive scoop.
Anthony, do you have any other fun facts about Desi Arnaz?
I do. Arnaz and Ball are credited as the innovators of the syndicated rerun. So the creators of Friends and Seinfeld have millions and millions of reasons to thank them. And also Arnaz was known for his catchphrase, "Lucy, I'm home," which he would say every time he was home, I guess. I don't know. I didn't watch the show. So.
Well, thanks, Ant, for doing the research. The next major Latino TV star was the half Puerto Rican, half Hungarian, and Jewish stand-up Freddie Prinze.
No, not the Freddie Prinze that turns nerdy girls into prom queens. That's his son, Freddie Prinze Jr. Freddie Sr. played Chico Rodriguez in the 70s sitcom Chico and the Man.
Oh, yes. That show was about a cranky owner of a rundown garage in East LA who hires Chico as a mechanic even though he hates Mexicans.
But Freddie Prinze's character has so much charisma that not even an old racist could resist him. Fast forward to the late 70s when Que Pasa USA became the first bilingual sitcom on television. It was about a Cuban-American family living in Miami.
Oh, and it came out before Scarface made Americans think all Cubans sound like Al Pacino on cocaine.
They don't. Then we all had to wait until the early 2000s for the George Lopez Show, which was the first show with a Mexican-American actor as the star and the first successful Latino comedy since Chico and the Man, which, if you've been listening, aired all the way back when disco was still cool.
Wait. Disco never stopped being cool. Now, even though there wasn't a lot of successful Latino comedy shows that broke through, there were some Latino characters that did find some success on television. Right, Anthony?
Sure, yeah, you guys remember Wilmer Valderrama playing Fez in that 70s show, America Ferrer playing Ugly Betty, that's the name of the show, I'm not calling her ugly personally, and of course, Sofia Vergara playing Gloria in Modern Family. They need to put Sofia's voice in the Smithsonian.
Don't forget Mario Lopez as AC Slater in Saved by the Bell. He's the reason I used to rock a curly mullet in grade school.
And that was a good thing?
Okay, the bottom line is, Latinos are funny. And there should be more of us being funny on TV. Now it's time for the interview with Gina Brillon.
We're gonna start with let's start off with kind of a Diane Sawyer type question, right?
Okay.
When did you realize you were funny?
Well, I'm glad you asked, Diane. I would have to say, when I was just a young child, I loved making people laugh. I couldn't see anybody upset. It was hard for me to see people in sadness or in struggle, I always felt like I needed to give them some kind of happiness. So even when my parents were mad at me, even when like, you know, I was in trouble, I was devising a plan to get them to laugh so that they would not be mad anymore. Right. And it wasn't even about forgiving me. It was about like, oh, I just hate seeing them with that angry look, or like knowing that I disappointed somebody. It's you know, it was a good thing and a bad thing, because it did make me a bit of a people pleaser, I think, for a long part of my life. And now I can comfortably sit in that and not be a people pleaser. Like, I can know that I want to help people, but not at the expense of my sanity or at the expense of myself being happy. You know what I mean? Like, it takes years of therapy and growth to do that. But I think at the time, there was so much joy when people would laugh, and I just became addicted to that. Like, I loved seeing that level of joy for a person.
So would you call yourself an extrovert, or were you kind of like introverted, but like used comedy to hide your, you know, shyness, you know?
I think by nature an introvert. I'm not a very extroverted person unless I know you. Yeah. And I've been around you and I feel free enough around you. And I think in terms of stand-up, I was in the driver's seat. It wasn't like any other art form. I had started off in musical theater and drama, and I was always the shy kid in those classes because I didn't want to be up front. I didn't think I was the best actress or think I was the best singer. So I was always hiding in the background. And then when I discovered stand-up, it was like the most amazing thing to me, because it's like, wait, I'm in control of that. It felt, for somebody who's introverted, who has a lot of social anxiety, being in the driver's seat of a situation, I don't think people understand how many comics actually have social anxiety and are only comfortable doing comedy, and that's it. It's because when I'm doing comedy, I have the microphone, you're in the audience, I'm literally higher than you, I'm controlling the situation, and then we're done. There's no social anxiety.
Very well lit.
Yeah, I'm very well lit. I'm very well protected. You're far away from me, and now I can just go and be about my business. But like, when a lot of people find out just how introverted I am, that I'm really quiet off stage and I'm really to myself, I don't go out a lot, I'm not a partier, I'm not a big drinker. I mean, I'm a weed person, but it's like it's like when I'm home and I'm chilling like by myself, like it's not. So it's just when people find out, they're like, oh my God, I can't believe you're a comedian. You're so to yourself. And I'm like, yeah.
Like at parties, it's like, you're not talking to anybody. Like,
but the
Gina.
second I start talking, then I won't shut up. Like the second somebody makes me that comfortable. Like I was once at this party, my lawyer was having a party and he invited me, and I was actually in California. Said, oh, I'm going to go to this party. And I knew I was going to hate it. I'm like, I'm going to hate it. I hate parties. Why am I going? And I was like, well, just go and maybe you'll see something cool. And of course, there were like a bunch of celebrities there, and I met Angela Bassett, and it was really nice. But there was this one guy that just looked like a regular dude, and I connected with him immediately, and we started talking, and he worked in finance, and now he's a good friend of mine. But we talked that night about how ridiculous it was that we were both at this party. I was like, oh, you know, we're the two things that don't belong.
When did you know you were stand-up funny?
I mean, I don't think I ever differentiated the two until I was like a couple years in stand-up, before I was like, oh, regular funny isn't always stand-up funny. Like, it actually took me a while to learn that lesson, because to me, I was always like, yeah, funny is funny, and funny is funny, but there's a structure to stand-up. And I had bought the Comedy Bible, like I knew the structure, but I don't think it really set in that there were certain things that couldn't translate to the stage. And so I knew I loved stand-up at 14. At 14, I knew I was going to be a comedian. I said to myself, that's what I want to do for the rest. I saw Brett Butler's stand-up special. Brett Butler sold out. And then after that, I saw George Lopez. And I was like, I'm going to do this for the rest of my life. Like the second I saw Brett Butler, that's when it hit me. And I never felt something hit me so hard like when I saw her performance and I'm sitting there watching it. And I just knew. I mean, it was the craziest thing, because I've never really felt that way about like anything. And so it hit me just like lightning, where it was just like, I'm going to do that. It wasn't a question. It was like, I'm going to do that for the rest of my life. And it became my one driving force.
14, that is, in a way, it's sort of a gift in a sense, because especially when we talk about now, how people are like, they're in their mid-30s and they still don't know what they want to do. But at 14, you were like, this is what I want to do. That's almost on a spiritual level in a sense. It's like, you were just...
It did feel that way. I'm like, I'm not going to lie. It really felt like that was the moment where my, I don't know if you want to call it destiny or fate or whatever, like sort of started to align with me, where I was like, I just knew it in my heart. I was like, this is what I have to do. This is what I have to do. I love this so much. And even when it was hard, I remember calling my sister crying and being like, I'm never going to do stand-up again. And my sister would be like, shut up. You're going to get back on stage tomorrow and you're going to do it again and again and again because you were meant to do this. And she knew me. She was right. I was never going to stop. I would, no matter how hard it got. And it sucks at first.
Yeah. Okay, so you mentioned your sister,
Yes.
and she seemed very supportive. Were the rest of your family as supportive with you wanting this early in your life to pursue something like a career in comedy, a career in entertainment?
My parents were amazingly supportive.
Okay.
I mean, and that's just a shock because Latino parents, you tell them you want to do anything in the arts and they're like, how are you going to make money?
Yeah.
We need you to have a better life. Like, how are you going to make money so that you're not struggling or suffering? And I know it comes from a good place, even though it is a negative way of like talking to your kid. It's like, as a mom now, I can understand why you would be like, please don't purposely put yourself in struggle.
Yeah.
But my parents were very much like, you know, you can do whatever you want with your life. Their only requirement was you have to go to college. And so I got a degree in English. I loved being in college, but I think I would have enjoyed the experience more if I had probably gone out of New York. But I stayed in New York and, you know, went to school at Marymount Manhattan College. What up?
You were balancing stand-up with like college courses?
Yep.
Is that, would you recommend that?
I would, what I would recommend is that you have the drive to know that in the beginning, particularly, the most important thing if you are getting into stand-up specifically is that you get on stage and that you push yourself to get on stage. That is the most important thing. That is, I don't care where you are in your career, if you're trying to be more of an actor or an actress and you want to get into stand-up for that reason, the most important thing is that you actually put in the hours. And however you can work that and still have a schedule and have a life, because without a life, you have nothing to talk about in stand-up. So you have to give yourself some hours of the day to live an actual life and to take care of life stuff so that you have stuff to talk about. So I was relentless. I made friends with all the janitors. They were all Latino. And so they would sneak me into the building so that I could finish my work for school. Like, I'd finish my papers and everything. I'd be there at like 3 a.m. and they would let me in. And then at 6 a.m. when they actually opened the doors, I would have to like sneak out and then come back in like, oh, they just opened the doors. And so I would come back in.
I thought I saw you come.
There's a cleaning lady that looks like me. We have the same body type. She got a big back. I got a big back. I understand why you think that.
Around that time, what was that point in time that you started getting, let's say, mentors? Did you have a quote unquote official mentor? Was there someone that said, "Wait, you're working too much"? Like, do you remember that point in time where you kind of like started getting some advice where it's like, "Hey"?
Probably every comic I knew was like, "Can you like take a nap? Like at some point, can you just?" Like, they would see me all the time and they'd be like, do you ever just not show up? Like, do you ever just take a night off? And at the time I was like, no. And, you know, it wasn't so much advice that I was given so much as it was stuff that people would say around me, as if not to try to tell me what to do, but try to be like, yeah, man, you know, every now and then I just take a night off and I just don't, like, they'd be like, hint, hint. And I give myself some time to myself. And I'd be like, must be nice. Like, I'd be like, I think there's also the pressure of like being Latina and being in the industry. It was, can I really take a break? Can I take a break? As, you know, Latin women, but like women in general in comedy are so highly criticized and scrutinized over everything they do. So it's not like me taking 3 days off versus a white male comic taking 3 days off. It's like, he'll still have a bunch of spots. People think I did quit comedy. Like, they really will be like, yo, Gina's out the game. Yo, she didn't come out all weekend, bruh. Like, so there was that pressure on me of like, from the start, like, as a female, do I have the same allowances as the men in this business to chill out?
During this time, you're still very young. And so youth also, you have that unlimited kind of like energy.
That
like
fearless energy,
And really that's a time right there where it's like it's very crucial to any comic career, right? Because it's like, this is the time when you are gonna have to stay up, do 5 shows a night if necessary, to really make a name. So, you could look at the flip side of that and say, if you kind of did let your foot off the gas, that, you wouldn't be where you are today.
Yeah. There's a part of me that does feel that way about it, where it was like, no, there's no way I could have taken my foot off the gas. Like do you know how long it took before I was able to perform in a mainstream room? Mm-hmm. How much I had to fight for them to think that what I was saying would be funny to non-Latinos? Yeah. Like, I'm telling you, the only reason I got into mainstream rooms was because they had a Latin night. Mm-hmm. That was the reason. They needed a Latina, and I was plucked from the pool every now and then to perform at these shows. But the thing that kills me was that there was a club, I won't say the club, but there was a club in New York that only had me doing Latino nights. And then one of the first spots they had given me a couple of regular spots, but they were clearly tentative about having me regularly work those spots. And they gave me a spot, and it was a night that I double booked. And I called them and I said, I'm so sorry, I double booked and I was already at the other show. They never booked me they didn't book me for like 5 or 6 years. Now, do you know how many male comics have missed a spot at the same club and get consistent work each week? And I'm not a woe is me type person, but I noticed that right away. I was like, damn, I've been there several times where someone hasn't even shown up for their spot. And I see those names on the lineup every single week. All I did was double book myself. And I'm getting penalized for it.
And it's like, you got to play the game in a sense.
Yeah.
But it's like unwritten games. You know what I mean? It's like...
It's the unwritten games and knowing. I had a teacher in high school. The best advice he ever gave me was, you need to learn the rules first and then break them. Mm-hmm. But you have to learn them first. And then you can break all the rules you want. Mm-hmm. Break all the rules you want once you learn them. But don't go in already set up for battle. You have to learn the other side's playbook.
Okay, so let's hypothetically, it's your first day teaching a class about stand-up, right? What is like a practical...
In Marymount College?
In Marymount College.
Yes, at Marymount, yeah.
Right. What is a practical lesson, the first practical lesson you would give to your students that first day, right?
The first day, I mean, it'll probably be...
Brillon.
I actually did teach a comedy class.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, I did. I didn't let a lot of people know because people have their opinions on that, and I just wanted to teach.
Right.
So I was like, I just want to help comics. Like, I just want to help them and give whatever guidance I can. You know what I mean? There's no way to really teach comedy. All I can do is explain certain aspects of the business to them and creatively give them a little push to maybe try harder or be more honest or be more real with who they are. But during that first class, I think I opened up just talking to them and letting them know, like, it's okay if right now you're not funny. Mm-hmm. It's okay. It's okay if you're writing jokes. That's okay. Everything is a process. No. So you're here to kind of learn the process and take your time with it. The problem is now a lot of people don't want to go through the process. They just want the rewards. And unfortunately, you can't get the rewards without the process. Yeah. So you have to be ready to go through the whole thing. You know, there's a couple of comics that I've talked to that are like younger comics that are like, well, you know, I've been trying to get into this comedy club and I want to get into this club, but I don't really think I should have to audition. And I'm like, then you're not getting in the club. Yeah. End of story. What's your next thing? You're not going to get into the club if you do not want to do the work. You're not going to make it to the next level if you can't handle the work at this level. Mm-hmm. Right now, when people are just starting out, I've met people who don't know how beneficial it is to stay in your lane. Because when you start to talk, and I've been the comic that made the mistake of saying, yeah, I can do 10 minutes when I only have 5. Stay in your lane because you will embarrass yourself. There was a comic that I met years ago who lied to me about how long he lied to somebody else about how long he'd been doing comedy. And I was standing there and I knew how long he'd been doing comedy. He'd been doing comedy 2 years and he said, I've been doing it 5 years. And when that other comic left, I said, why did you lie about that? And he was like, well, I didn't want him to think that I was just starting out. And I go, but you are. And he's going to know that from your stand-up. So the second you step on that stage, your lie is destroyed because they're going to know the difference between a 2-year comic versus a 5 or 10-year comic. Mm-hmm. So you just screwed yourself and made yourself look unprofessional. But I see that attitude so many young comics that it's like nobody's trying to be, I don't ever want to bully anybody, mm-hmm. but there's a level of honesty that you have to have with somebody about whether or not they're going about the process in the best way. Mm-hmm. I can't tell you how to do your career. I can't tell you how to be a successful comic, but I can sure as hell tell you how to not be one.
Yeah. But lying about stuff on a resume can work with other jobs, but
yeah,
not
100%. Not with stand-up.
Like,
not with stand-up.
It's all right. Show me and show this whole audience that you can speak
you've been doing
conversational Spanish.
Yeah, right now. Right now. Show me this. Show this whole audience right now.
Yeah, yeah.
Gina, you've been done a lot of television appearances.
Yeah.
How have you dealt with nerves? Has there been a sense of anxiety? Because again, it's like you're doing the stand up, you're going, and this is like these are my friends, doing all that. But was there a moment in time, one of the first times when you were on late night that you felt a nervousness? Like, how did you cope with that? What was your headspace when it came to that?
TV honestly doesn't make me that nervous anymore. My first late night set was different. I was really nervous. My first late night set was Seth Meyers, and I was really nervous about everything from how I looked to what the audience reaction was going to be, to whether or not I was going to mess up a line or say something. I was so nervous, and I had gone over it in my head 100 times, and I was like going over my set and going over my set and going over my set, even like minutes before I was about to be called on stage. I just kept going over it and going over it and going over it. I had this acting teacher a couple of years before I had done Seth Meyers, and warning, I'm about to cuss. She had this thing she would tell us whenever we would go in for an audition. She was Leslie Kahn. She was a really well-known sitcom acting coach, right? And so she said, do all the preparation. Do absolutely all the preparation, study hard, know your lines, know the scene like the back of your hand. And then when you walk in that room for the audition, go, fuck it, and do whatever. Yeah. Because when you're that comfortable with the work, it really is muscle memory. You've now made yourself so comfortable with everything that anything that anybody throws in you in that moment, it's not going to faze you. Because you've been so prepared. And I think in that moment, I literally just had that fuck it moment where I was like, all right, fuck it. This is what you do. Every week you do stand up. Every week. This is what you do. You're going to go up there. You're going to do what you do. And then that's it. That's it. And so that kind of helped me get over the nerves in that first instance. Mm-hmm. And then after that, you kind of realize TV audiences are kind of coached. Right. So they're literally told, clap here, laugh there. Yeah. So it's like, it's not, will I do bad on TV? Now it's more, how natural can I make this look and come across, and how natural can I be on camera versus looking like a robot that's just performing to the cameras. And so it becomes this, I had to learn to perform and look at the camera, but still be performing like I'm just performing live and there's no cameras there. Mm-hmm. I had to learn how to do that. I had to learn for the first special, I was given that direction by the director. And so by the time when I was on something like AGT, I knew to look at the camera, but still perform for everybody like it was just a live performance. Mm-hmm. But to make sure that I'm looking at the camera, because I'm not just performing for the people here, I'm performing for the people at home.
Yeah.
So I can't just look at them, because that's going to look weird to the people at home. And I can't just look at them because that's going to look weird to the people here. So you have to learn there's a smoothness to it, right, that you really have to learn how to perfect. And it was something that I was working on, and you just get better and better and better at it the more experience you have with it. So, I mean, it's been it's been a good training field for me.
So perfect segue. You mentioned AGT, America's Got Talent, and you had a very successful run on that show.
I did.
We were all rooting for
Made
you.
it to the finals.
Can you tell us how you got involved in that, and just how did the overall experience change you?
I plead the fifth. No, I'm kidding.
Next question.
Off record.
I'm gonna have to talk to my lawyer first. No, look, I don't like competition shows. I've never liked them. I don't like them. I did not want to do America's Got Talent. I did not.
Yeah.
For years did not. And I say that confidently because everybody that knows me knows that I hate competition shows. And the producers had like 2 years ago, they scout talent. So somebody had contacted my manager and said, we'd really love for Gina to do the show. This was like 2 years ago. I was with different management and everything. And I was like, no, thank you. And then they came back and they were like, we'd really like her to just come and do an audition. And I was like, no, thank you. And then like the next year it was like the same thing. They came back and they were asking. And then my new manager, Jenny, whom I love, she's amazing and wonderful. And they came to Jenny and they were like, hey, we'd really like for Gina to come and do the show. And I was like, no, thank you. And Jenny was like, okay, I know you don't like competition shows. And the way she broke it down to me was this. She was like, but I want you to think about it like this. You have a son now. You have somebody looking up to you. You have somebody to inspire. Do you really want to turn this opportunity down because of some sort of ego-based thing or some kind of fear? And I really had to kind of sit with that and be like, damn.
Yeah,
Because a part of it was a big fear. I didn't want to be judged. I was afraid to be judged. I was afraid of what it would do to my confidence to be judged on such a large scale.
Yeah.
And so very, very, very reluctantly, I said, I'll do the audition. And I was scared out of my mind because I didn't know how it was going to go. That buzzer is deafening. in real, like you hear it and you're like, oh, it rings in your ears. It's deafening. And so it's like moments before I'm about to go up and I'm still like, oh my God, how am I going to do this? Oh God, I'm so nervous. I don't know. And then again, fuck it. Whatever happens, happens. You know you're not going to do badly because you're a professional comedian. You're not going to do badly. Someone's going to laugh. Whether it's Howie or somebody's, look at that person. Yeah. I just kept telling myself, look at that person and concentrate on that person. Don't look anywhere else.
Right.
Look at the person that's laughing. And I went out there and I did my set and I was literally just like, whoever I saw, I just kind of concentrated in that area. And I was like, please just look. And so when it went well, it was one of those things where I was like, well, what now? What now?
Yeah.
And then there was the next process and, the next one and the next one up until, the finals. And every step of the way, I literally was like, whatever happens, happens. No. There are certain things that are outside my control. And part of the struggle of adulthood for anybody is learning to let go of the things that are outside of our control.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I had to let go and be like, I don't know how this is going to play out. I don't know how. All I can do is enjoy the ride. And what a crazy ride it was. It was the craziest time and I learned a lot and I met beautiful, amazing people. And I met horrible people too, but I met beautiful, amazing people that I never would have connected with if it wasn't for this experience.
But one thing we haven't spoken specifically is sort of what your creative how do you come up with your content? Like your process of it and just starting it from like the idea or situation to ending it up on stage.
For me, I'll meet up with people, I'll write with some people, or I'll be like, hey, can I run this by you? Can you tell me if anybody's talking about this? I'll do that. But a lot of times it's literally just me going, what do I want to talk about now? Especially after you do a special, you do another special, you go, well, what do I want to talk about now? What's on my mind now? What do I care about now? because if you're talking about stuff that you really have no passion for and you don't care about, it's very obvious when you don't have that passion behind it. Some of my favorite comics are they just speak so passionately about any given subject, even if it's something silly. But it's just that level of excitement, that passion comes through. So a lot of times I'll just be like, well, this and this is bothering me lately. Or I'm a new mom. Like, what about motherhood? Like, what about this? What about that? How's me and my husband's relationship since motherhood? What changed it during the pandemic? And like all these thoughts and then you try to organize them. You know, you get all these thoughts, you write them down. Years ago, I was given advice from a comic that said, don't write to be funny. Write the truth and find the funny in the truth. So if I'm talking about an actual situation, and there's so many situations, people deal with tragedy with humor, they deal with happiness with humor, they deal with all these different situations with humor. So it's about looking at this real life situation and talking about it in a way that somebody sitting at a table in some club in Oklahoma is gonna go, I feel the same way. I can't believe you just brought that up. Yeah. I've been thinking the same thing. And so that's kind of the fun part. You know, when we're in comedy clubs, like me and my best friend, we call that cooking. Like, oh, you cooking tonight. Like when you're doing like newer stuff and you're just kind of really passionate about it and they're like, whoo, you get in there. And so that's the fun part, is kind of filtering out all this material. That's why you'll hear a lot of people like, oh, I really like this person live, but I don't really like their specials. It's like, because you're watching the process. You're seeing it in its raw form before it's ready for the special, before it's put together. There's plenty of comics that when you're watching it, like one of my favorite nights at the Comedy Cellar, they do a new joke night and they do it over at the Fat Black. And it's one of my favorite nights because there's literally no pressure. The audience knows that this is brand new material that has not really been worked out. So even if something doesn't go well, it's like everybody in the room is like, all right, maybe not that one. They're just like, all right, let's come back to that one at a later date. But like, I love that night because you really get to see it in its rawest form, the material. And that is exciting. But part of the process that I love is the shaving it down, the trimming the fat, the getting rid of the ums and the ahs and the losing this and really getting to the meat of the story so that you have it so it's so tight that when you perform and you perform that bit, it's like people are just blown away by where your mind went with that. And so the whole process is fun to me, but my personal process always feels a little chaotic because it's like all these thoughts. It's like that scene in Minority Report where Tom Cruise is like moving all the things. That's what it feels like. It's like this goes with this and then maybe this over here. No, let's bring that up here. And it really feels like that. And that's the fun part. That's the most fun creative part, is figuring out what exactly do I want to talk about now.
So we're gonna go rapid fire. Just your initial thoughts on some of the stuff that we just throw out,
and it's called Initial Thoughts. So that's the segment. Fitting, right?
Initial Thoughts.
I think we named it, but okay.
Wow, it's just been named. That's it. It's just been named. It's Initial Thoughts.
We'll put it, in post.
Like an executive decision.
Okay. So let's start it. How about you start something and then we'll see how the chain goes.
Just Initial Thoughts. What's up?
At first, I thought you were saying "What's up," and I was like, "What's up?"
We started right from the beginning.
What's up? What you do?
What's up? What's up? What's up?
Okay, so I periodically delete and re-download WhatsApp like all the time, because there was a time when it was so annoying because everybody was hitting up everyone on WhatsApp, and I got it because I was working on cruise ships and it was a way for me to communicate with other people on the ship. But I would delete it immediately when I get off the cruise ship. I would delete it because I hated WhatsApp. And then it started to become this thing where it's like a couple of my friends got it and there were just hilarious things they would send me on WhatsApp. And anytime you send me like a meme or something funny on a particular app, I'm like, oh, I love this app now. And so like they started sending me those, and now I send like voice notes to some of my friends only communicate with me via WhatsApp now. Right. So I'm like, all right, now I kind of need it. So I'll keep it around. So I'm kind of pro it now, but it's like a love-hate relationship with WhatsApp.
As an Android user, I need
First of all, then you cannot have an opinion on this. I have to say, I could not. Yes, please. I'm so sorry. You do not have an opinion on WhatsApp.
Next.
Wait, I do have an iPhone, but I don't even use it. It's more like a business.
Look at that. Look at freaking.
I like Android.
I love how he does that. I love how he does that. I have a burner iPhone thing. Not really. I'm not interested.
Anyway, I was saying when someone from with an Apple phone sends you a picture, it comes out blurry on a text. So WhatsApp, if they send it to you on WhatsApp, it looks 4K, perfect, a perfect picture. So that I do need WhatsApp for that. But yeah. Just throwing that out there. Let me ask one. We had iPhone versus Android too, so skip that.
Yeah,
we just
clearly
we already
we
know
know.
your thoughts. The word Latinx.
I mean, I'm for it for people who identify as Latinx.
Right.
I identify as Latina. That's just how I grew up. That's how I identify. But I respect the idea of inclusion. Obviously, we can't do it with like every word. Like Camino's not gonna be Caminex. Like we can't do it for everything. But I think opening the door for inclusion in language is uncomfortable for people. So a lot of people are like, Latinx. But I think you have to understand. First of all, try to have a little bit of like empathy and really understand what it's like to feel excluded for so long. And because I believe the movement actually started within the LGBTQ plus community. That's how it initially started. And then it became something bigger. I feel like everybody gets like their like thing jacked, like their movement gets jacked by some other big thing. And so it became like a bigger thing that I think started to annoy people, when something doesn't keep its original, I guess, form, you could say. It kind of blew up to a big point, but I'm with inclusion. So, like, I'm with it. If you want to say Latinx, it's just understand that there's a learning curve for a lot of people. And I think that's what we're missing in a lot of this is the learning curve. Like, give me a chance to adjust. Like, I have to change paradigms that are imprinted on my brain that have been there since childhood. So you got to give me a second to step back and literally reprogram my brain. Like, and I think that's what people need to kind of like just give people a minute to adjust. I think they'll get on board.
Okay. One more each. Yeah.
Cable news.
Hard pass. I don't watch the news. I'm not a good grown-up. I get terribly, terribly depressed when I watch the news. So I don't watch news. I literally wait for people to tell me stuff. And then I'm like, oh, I'll be the last person to know about the zombie apocalypse. Because I'll be like, oh my God, they've been killing people for weeks now. I've just been in my room. That's crazy. So yeah, I don't watch any news, like cable news, whatever. I don't watch Primer Impacto. I don't watch That's the most damaging, psychologically damaging news. I don't watch none of it. I literally wait for important stuff to happen. And then my husband watches all the news. Like he watches every bit of news. So he always reports back to me anyway. So I'm like, yeah, I know what's going on in the country because of my husband. Like,
You're on WhatsApp, like, all right, it's cool.
I'm like, it's cool. Somebody sent me an article.
Yeah, right. I'm in a group text. We're talking about it. Last one. You have your own TV show. Do you prefer it to be single cam or multicam?
Hybrid. Shot like a single cam with multiple cameras. It's the easiest and best way to do it, in my opinion, because multicam, although it's way less expensive, I think is an antiquated form. And so I don't think people are because multicam humor is very, every joke is very, with single cam or hybrid shows, you can have shows like Modern Family that have a little more biting sense of humor, that are more sarcastic and wordplay and like everything else. So I personally prefer hybrid shows, like New Girl was like a hybrid show. You know what I mean? Where, you kind of have the best of both worlds. The studio gets to keep some of their money because you're shooting it like a multicam. So it's not like you have to stop and reset and shoot again with one single camera, which is what takes so long and why it's so damn expensive. So for me, I've always liked the idea of a hybrid show because I think it's a more graduated form of sitcom humor to me that translates better when it comes to stand-up. Yeah. And so I mean, I'm all for hybrid shows.
Kudos to you that you said translate literally in the end of the segment there.
Perfect.
Oh my God, thank you. Thank you.
And the podcast. Thank you so much, Gina. Thank you
guys.
so much.
This
This
was
has
great.
been awesome.
Thank you, Gina. So we want to thank our guest, Gina Brillon, all right, for a great interview. I guess that's the end of the show, right?
Yeah, Anthony, thank you so much for the research.
Thank you guys.
And if you could find some old footage of your stand-up, we will definitely.
Yeah, we'll look at it. We'll look at it.
Take a look.
So,
I'll find it.
so we're gonna do what we do at the end of every show is we're gonna drink from our Translators mugs.
Wait, I think you have mine. Sorry. It's not water.
Mm,
Okay.
this is warm.